Donald Trump's Twitter use is revolutionizing the president's bully pulpit. MSNBC's Morning Joe was talking, inevitably, Wednesday about Donald Trump bashing Boeing over the alleged cost of a new Air Force One. "It is a remarkable pattern," said regular Willie Geist, noting the nexus of media stories, even if bogus, and instant Trump reactions. "If you saw that flag-burning tweet last week and said, 'Where the hell did that come from?' he was watching TV. There was a segment on another network about flag burning." He then mentioned a Chicago Tribune story on Tuesday in which the chief executive of Boeing questioned Trump's apparent trade policies. Trump, attacks the Air Force One order. "He's watching everything, man, and he's tweeting about it," said Geist. "There's a certain shock and awe among the press about Trump's aggressive, unrelenting communications. It's rife with a certain irony since, more often than not, we grouse over the rhetorical evasions, redundancies, languor or incrementalism of public officials' public statements. So here's a guy who craves attention and provocation in what some deem a highly effective reflex, while others do not. His preternatural lack of caution provides a daily press bonanza, even while suggesting potential Oval Office perils." A new case for Trump's potency comes from Eric Posner, a University of Chicago law professor, very active blogger and son of Richard Posner, long our most prolific federal jurist and legal academic, and surely most influential judge not on the Supreme Court. This week, in a "Trump, the Great Communicator" posting, Eric writes, "Historians tell us that Teddy Roosevelt created the modern presidency by using the office as a bully pulpit, unlike earlier presidents. Roosevelt took his policies to the public rather than working through Congress. With public support, Roosevelt could then pressure Congress to adopt his policies through legislation. The president became the primary policymaker, or at least a first among equals, rather than an executor of policy determined by Congress, but the president wasn't always a sympathetic conduit, so, in Posner's view, it was apt that Franklin D. Roosevelt would partly circumvent the media via his radio fireside chats. Ronald Reagan, the great communicator, tried to revive the radio tradition. But it was the 1980s and the world had changed. Then came the internet and far greater media and cultural fragmentation, prompting Posner to cite the words of Julian Zelizer, a Princeton University historian, who commented on President Obama seeking new modes of reaching out. "President Obama has gone to great lengths to find new ways to reach the American people," Zelizer wrote in 2011. "But he is trying to achieve a 20th century goal in a century when it is no longer possible. The reality is that presidents, Democrat or Republican, will have to find new ways to exercise what power they have and should no longer expect the opportunity to simply take their case to the public." But Posner uses those lines to argue that Zelizer was wrong. Time does not reflect kindly on this assertion. Trump has done just this in his campaign and as president-elect, and no doubt he will as president as well. Those of us who do not like Trump or his policies need to concede that he is a brilliant tactician. He has used Twitter to take his case to the public far more effectively than any president since Reagan, if not before. In Posner's mind, and, for sure, many other observers, Trump has been masterful. That's especially so as he exploits the winner-take-all essence of Twitter, which Posner finds to play to Trump's strengths of pithy, simple statements that are usually brutal and occasionally humorous. And then, there's this, rather than link consistently to a respectable or semi-respectable outlet of conservative opinion, he linked to any media outlet, no matter how disreputable, that contained an item that supported his immediate goals. Of course, the mainstream press will by and large parrot those comments and give them a far greater audience, even as it casts doubt on their truth. Witness the Morning Joe dialogue. I brought the Posner blog to Zelizer's attention. He was quick to respond. "This overstates what Trump had been able to do," he writes. just with the campaign. What has been most important is the way that fierce partisanship in the conservative media created a world of voters with a worldview who he capitalized on. He didn't create the new GOP. That has been brewing for decades. Trump just gave them what they wanted. Also, notes Zelizer, Trump did lose the popular vote by at least 2.5 million votes, with a sizable percentage of those who voted for him claiming not to especially like him or his views on a variety of topics. So far too early to tell if it's true that Twitter has really remade the bully pulpit, but at minimum, he's giving us cause to update the Harry Truman maxim. It's recasting for a social media age. If you can't take the heat, sit down and tweet.